All right. Day 2, good morning. Nice to see you all back. Is anyone exhausted? This week has been a long week already. Like yesterday, I was like, it's only Tuesday. It felt like it's been a long week, but as we ease back into the semester, but we get to get started today, which is kind of fun. We get to get going on our materials. I have a few things I want to do before we jump into chapter 1. I have some of your index cards up here. Before you leave today, make sure you bring it up so you don't have to bring it now, but at some point today, come put it up here for me. Are there any other questions at all about the syllabus? Anything that you thought of since last time? Any other questions, anything at all? How many of you were able to get a copy of the book or order a copy of the book? Maybe it's on its way. A bunch of you, that's great. So hopefully you can start doing that if you haven't already. Remember, you can get the older book if price is something that you're considering, or there is one on reserve in the library. So just make sure you have some access to a book, however it is that you are getting it. I want to, as a quick review, and I do this every time, one, because I think it's kind of a fun way to, again, compete for candy early in the morning, and just a nice review. We're going to do a little Kahoot review of a few things from last time. If you downloaded the Kahoot app, fantastic. If you didn't, you can just you can do it now, or you can just log into Kahoot. If you don't have access to technology, you could share with a partner next to you. But we're going to do just a quick, just kind of for fun. I have a few questions for you just as a review. So I'll put this up here. And we need the music. That's like the best part of it. So where did it go? I tested this with my kids last night and they're like, this is really boring. I'm sorry. My kids are so mean to me sometimes. Okay, so here's the code up here at the top for you to join. And again, if you can't get in for some reason or you don't have access to something to use, feel free to have a partner help you out. There we go. I love that you get to add a little character now. That's the best part. Like 1, 3, 3, 6, 7, 8. Brain with an eye patch. I like that. Because the football helmet, bonus points. I'll give you just another minute or so and then we'll be up. Okay, everybody logged in. I think that's everybody in. If you get logged out for any reason, here's the code to get back in. So these are questions about the syllabus and things that we talked about last time. Okay, so you can use your memory, you can use the syllabus if you have it in front of you. But the way it'll work is you'll have 4 options, which you'll choose from on your phone or your computer, tablet or whatnot. You are awarded points for accuracy and speed, right? So it's a little bit of a competition. If you win any round or win at the end, I have some candy for you. I have new candy too. I'm very excited. So I had to put it in a bag to keep it away from myself, right? But I have candy for you if you win any of the rounds or win at the end. But just a quick review of a few things we talked about. So here we go. Again, you want to be quick, but you want to be right as well. So here are 10 questions. Number 1. We're going to start really easy. What is the name of this class? You have 4 choices. Excellent. You all knew. That's fantastic. You never want to not know what class you're in, right? I was an academic counselor for years, and people would come in and they'd be like, this class I'm in, but they wouldn't know which one it was. Don't ever let that be you. Always know what class you're in. You all got it. That's perfect. Let's see who is in the lead. Where's Sarah? Nice. Round one goes to you. Okay. Candy for you later. Number 2. What is the best way to contact me? Best way to get a hold of me? Sorry, it kind of cuts it off. That makes it a little difficult for you. Great. Most of you got it, right? A couple of you wrote office hours, which is fine, but email, always the best way. Check the email constantly. We'll get back to you pretty quickly. See where we're at. Still in the lead. I like it. Okay. Next round. Next question. I have how many kids in total? Totally not important, but we're doing it anyway. Oh, that's annoying. Here, wait.
Is this
Okay.
included?
4, 7, 6, 8. I'm going to talk to them about that. That's going to annoy me all semester. Okay. I would say 12. No, not 12 kids, right? Perfect. 8 in total. I didn't put 3 to trick you, right? I have 8 children in total. Let's see. Oh, new leader. Nikki. Where's Nikki? Excellent. Next question. And I'll help you out with the ones over here. What is the name of our required textbook? Exploring Sexuality in Modules, Guide to Sexuality. All right, excellent. You all got it. Sexuality now, embracing diversity. Again, try and get that as soon as you can. Nikki again in the lead. Right? I like this repeat winners. Lots of candy. Okay, next question. True or false? You should come to class even if you aren't feeling well. True or false? Oh, you got that so fast. That was crazy. All right. False, right? Excellent. There are like 2 or 3 people who are not feeling well today. It's okay if you're not feeling well, stay home, take care of yourself, and you can watch the recording on Canvas. Still in the lead. Take her down. Okay. Another question. Our exams will be taken in person on Canvas. Excellent. I love how fast you are. You're on it, right? I'm on Canvas, right? So our exams, we'll have 3 of them. They'll all be on Canvas. We'll talk a lot about those when we get closer. Still in the lead. If you miss an exam, which of the following is true about making it up? You can make it up anytime. You can make it up before the tests are graded. All right, a little more spread out, but most of you got it right. So if you miss an exam, you can't make it up unless you made prior arrangements with me, right? So you have the entire span of a day to take the exam. So there really shouldn't be any reason that you reach out to me ahead of time because something's going on. We can obviously work on that together. Participation are graded by responding to questions in class, 10 random 10-point activities. Ooh, okay, so 10 random 10-point activities, right? A little more spread out. I will never give you a pop quiz. Luckily, none of you voted for that. I'm not that mean. Definitely respond to questions in class. Definitely be here, but it's those 10 random 10-point activities like the index card or some of the other things that we'll do later in the semester. Still in the lead. Oh, look at that margin too. That's good. Okay. If you miss a participation homework assignment, it can be submitted. This one says whenever for full points by email before the end of the class it was due. Great. So if it was a homework assignment, you can email it to me before the end of the class it was due. Perfect. Still in the lead. How many homework assignments will you do in this class? How many homework assignments? The little field trip ones. 1, 3, 2, there's no homework. Right, 2, right? So you'll do 2 homework assignments in here, right? The field trips that you're going to take, or like the little activities that you'll do and write a paper about. Hopefully you can start thinking about those. We'll talk about one of them in a week or two, but hopefully they will be kind of fun for you to do. Okay, still in the lead. Look at that, by 1,000. So you've been with me before. You knew what I was going to ask maybe, right? Here we go. Last and most important, my favorite football player. Peyton Manning, Cooper Kupp, Tom Brady, Cody Bellinger. That's a trick question. Cody Bellinger. Okay, good. At least you knew. Right. Brady, right? Yeah. So again, I don't know what I'm doing with my football life this year, but good. Nobody voted for Cody Bellinger, baseball player, right? All right. So in the end, let's see where we're at here. In 3rd place, Luna. Where's Luna? Oh, there you are, right there. Okay. Audrey. Great. And then, I mean, it really should be you. If it's not you, there's something wrong with this. Nikki. Okay, there we go. All right. So if you're one of these 3, or you want a couple of rounds too, Sarah, right? Come up at the end and get some candy from me. They're so happy. I love it. Okay. So we'll close this for now, but just a couple of things to make sure that you remember, right? From the syllabus, right? Again, all of those things are the stuff that we covered last time. Hold on to that document. Really great reference piece for you. And it's on Canvas if you do lose it for some reason. The other thing I want to add really quickly is I want to talk just for a moment about taking notes before we get going. So I would recommend to you that you take notes. Right now, you're at this point probably know what works for you and what doesn't. But I've had a lot of students who have taken classes with me say that they do something like this, right? So obviously the slides are on Canvas, so you don't necessarily have to write down what's in the slide because you have access to them at any time. But some people, what they'll do is they'll print the slides on like a 3-slide format, and then they'll take notes next to it. And that means you can write things on here, you can highlight it, you can obviously use technology and do all of that, digitally if you want to pass this around if you want. But I would definitely recommend that you take notes, whether it's virtually or like on pen and paper or whatnot. But the more ways that you're encoding information, the more likely you are to remember it. So if you're listening to my voice and you're looking at the slides, and you're writing or typing it, that's 3 different modalities of putting it in, which makes you more likely to hold on to it. So I would definitely recommend taking notes. If I write stuff up on the board, you're going to want to write that down because it's not in the slides. If I say this will be on the exam, maybe circle it or highlight it or put a star next to it or something like that. So good idea to be kind of jotting stuff down as we go. In order to help you with that a little bit, what I want you to do, and we're creatures of habit, a lot of you from what I kind of remember are sitting in the same spots as you did last time. You'll probably sit in the same spot all semester. That's just how we tend to be. I've actually seen fights break out about chairs, like somebody stole someone else's chair and people get mad about it. We get territorial quickly. But what I want you to do is just find a couple of people around and exchange an email, phone number, or social media, whatever it is that you're comfortable with. If you miss a class, your classmates are probably your best resource. So they're going to have taken notes. You could get notes from them. You could ask them if there was a homework assignment. You can always email me, of course, but your classmates are a wonderful resource to have. So what I'd like you to do is just find a few people around you, exchange whatever level of information you're comfortable exchanging. That way you have someone to reach out to, or a couple of people to reach out to. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that. And then we'll keep going, but find a few people around you.
Oh yeah, perfect street. Like in there, I felt that I was getting good at it. I see where the company's over with. I was gonna get it. So then it's still good. Faster than I did. You know, let's do that. Oh, that's sick. What is that? Let's go. Are you gonna get everyone?
It's nice, but I like sit with some sort of years and then she's
Yeah. Like, steak or something?
yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. It's not.
Well, like.
Oh. I think you number. That's okay. I was gonna try. I didn't want to embarrass myself, so. One day. One more time. Oh, 63. All right, you have my number.
It's good enough, it's totally fine. Either one of these. And mine doesn't print me color. Ink is expensive. All right, did everyone get some pieces of information from you? You can go home today and brag that you got. Not all that exciting, right? But what I want you to do again, if you miss a class, right? Again, you can always reach out to me, but your classmates, right? So you could always compare notes. You could swap notes. A lot of people will do that sometimes, just kind of compare and see where they're at. Totally up to you. I also wrote one other phone number up here. If there's ever a campus emergency, now obviously I hope there never is, but if there is, you're supposed to call 911, which is intuitive, right? But you could also, if it's something like lesser, or if you don't want to call 911, you could always call campus security. They will call 911 for you. So obviously I hope we never have something that we have to worry about like that. But if something happens, you know, that's the number, or 911 that we're supposed to call. If something happens to me, someone call 911 or do that number, right? If I like pass out on the floor, don't just leave, not that you would, but that's the number to have. So hopefully, again, we never need it, but I wanted to give it to you just in case. Any other questions? Anything else before we jump in? Anyone? Anything else about the syllabus? Anything at all? All right. First slides. I think that's exciting. I love the fall. I'm excited. Here we go. So chapter 1, we're kind of setting the stage a little bit. So we're going to talk just for a minute about what is sexuality. And then we'll look very briefly, like just a little snippet at a bunch of different cultures that have contributed to where we are now in terms of our ideas of sexuality in the United States. We'll watch a really cool part of a documentary next class, which I think is really interesting just culturally in terms of the time, how different it is from today. But we'll build up to that first and get there. So when we talk about sexuality, right, this class is called human sexuality, right? We're looking at feelings and behaviors concerning sex, right? So we're going to look at things like anatomy, we'll look at gender identity and orientation, communication, relationships. We're going to look at a whole bunch of different topics over the course of the semester, and we're focused on human sexuality in here, right? And that's what we're going to spend most of our time looking at. And when we talk about sexuality, we all come into this class with a different level of comfort around talking about sex, right? And we're going to go through slang terms and we're going to talk about things that might make you a little bit uncomfortable, right? Hopefully at the end of this class, your sexual intelligence is a little bit higher. And when we talk about sexual intelligence, it kind of has these 4 pieces to it. The first one is your self-understanding, right? Like how well do you know your own identity? Your own sexuality, your own attitudes related to sex. What are your interpersonal sexual skills? Things with other people, right? Like how well do you communicate the needs that you have, the things that you're interested in, how well do you do in relationships with communication and so on. scientific knowledge is probably the one that I hope you grow on the most, right? We're going to talk about the technical terms for things, right? Different types of hormones and what they do, different pieces of anatomy and what they're actually called versus the slang terms we tend to use much more often. And so we'll look at things a lot in that one, right? Hopefully that's one that you grow on quite a bit. And then we'll always take into consideration culture, because every culture is different and really shapes sexuality, really shapes what's normal or abnormal at the time. And as a side note, I love questions like this as short answer questions on exams, right? Anytime that there's a list of like 3 or 4 or 5, those are like my favorite short answer questions. So this would make a great one. What are the 4 components of human sexuality? So you could circle it or star it or whatever. You'll have a study guide, but just to give you that tip now as we get going. And just for fun, we're going to do a little like sexual intelligence quiz. Right now, I came up with this. It's not worth any points. It's going to be worth more candy because why not? Right. So what I want you to do is to get into groups of like, let's say 3, maybe 3 or 4 people. Right. Don't go more. So 3 or 4. Just whatever's convenient around you. Go ahead and introduce yourself if you don't know each other, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do next. So find like 3 to 4 people. Find a group and go ahead and get together.
Hello, nice to meet you for the first time.
You might turn your desks a little bit or like squeeze together. Everyone have a group and 2 is totally fine too, or you could merge. All right. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to send one person up from your group. You're going to grab a whiteboard. Hopefully they're all clean. My kids were drawing on them. I tried to check. An eraser. And then you can grab a marker or 2, right? You can grab 2 if you want, just to make sure. But grab a whiteboard, an eraser, and a marker or 2. So just one person come up and grab that real quick. And check your marker real quick. If it's dead, you can toss it and grab it. Another one. Oops. Is that one dead?
Yeah.
Oh. That happens. All right. And then figure out you're going to need one who's willing to write on your whiteboard. So whoever you want that to be, I don't have a bad paper, whoever has nice handwriting. I love your details.
Really good handwriting.
All right.
Like to.
Rock, paper, scissors. Okay, everybody have a designated writer in your group? Okay, so I have 13 questions for you. And these are things we're going to cover all semester. If you don't know them now, that's okay. You will know them by the end. You probably know them even better at the end of today. So what I want you to do as a group, I'm going to give you the question, and then I want you to like 30 seconds to write down your answer, and we're all going to hold them up. Yeah, and no worries if you get them wrong. This is just for fun, okay? So first question. Masters and Johnson were who? Who were Masters and Johnson? So you're going to write on your board who you think they are. If you don't know, be creative. That's totally fine. Masters and Johnson were who?
I feel like we have something like
And you can
Parentheses, love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 votes. Do it, yeah.
Whatever you want. All right, write your answers down. And again, if you're wrong, it's okay, right? It's fine. Yeah. Sex researchers love Sexuality. We're sex researchers, we're sexologists, very famous. Perfect. I love it. All right. They're gonna, some of these are fun, some of these are. What was it? No, we're gonna cover all these things, but the theme. Okay, number two, this is a true or false. So 50-50. A woman creates one egg per month on average. True or false? A woman creates one egg per month on average. True or false? You can write T-Rat too. All right, are we ready? What do we got? False, 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 and false. I didn't get any of you, right? Why is it false? Anyone know? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that females are born with the eggs, that all of the eggs that they'll have for their whole life.
Exactly correct, right? So we're born with all the eggs that we have. One matures every week, but they're not created. Nice job. Nice job. Awesome. Okay, go ahead and erase it. Next one. My favorite question, I think it was fun. Yeah. All right, number 3. If your doctor asked you to point to your corona, you would point to what? If your doctor asked you to point to your corona, what would you point to? You don't have to do it. Everybody ready? Okay, go ahead, hold it up. What do we got? Top of head, private part, head, throat. Uh-oh, what did you know, right? That's okay. So the tip of the penis, right? Or the head. Frown, right? So the frown is okay. All right, number 4, next one. What is the most common penis size when erect? What is the average or most common penis size when erect?
It's like someone, it's nationwide. Are we going off the English? Are we going off?
I'm complimenting. All right, ready? 5.5, 5.5, 5 to 7, 5. Hey, 5 to 7 is correct. Hey, you want to know exactly? It's 5.6. You almost hit it. I'm seeing who's hit it on the head. You hit it. You want to break this. 5.6 or 5 to 7 inches on average. Really? Okay. Next question. How many sperm do men produce each day? How many sperm do men produce each day? Roughly.
It's somewhere like that. But you also write to me, so like, class, what class are you in? Oh, I think it's.
All right, are we ready? Go ahead. Hold on. Let's see what do we got. 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, millions. What's it? 4 million, 300 million a day. 300 million sperm. Every single day.
I was thinking, I was asking.
Yeah. All right. Next question, number 6. This one's true or false. Cornflakes the cereal, were developed to lower sex drive and stifle masturbation. You're like, that's so random.
No way.
Graham Cracker.
Favorite.
All right, go ahead, hold them up. Yeah. Graham crackers. Land. Were developed to stifle masturbation.
Okay.
All right, number 7. All right, the capacity for sexual response is present at what age? The capacity for sexual response is present at what age?
I was gonna say. I think it's actually just. Capacity for I know it's gonna be thoroughly when you say. The capacity to. I don't want to say that. No. I don't like that. Capacity. I mean, if it's like.
All right, ready? Anyone have an answer?
Yeah. So weird.
Okay. All right, so we have 6, 11, 12, 6, prenatal, and you're right. Okay. Little boys sometimes will have erections on ultrasound, right? They can have the capacity for sexual response even before they're born.
But you're close.
Prenatal.
I'm sorry.
You did it. All right, true or false? If a man withdraws before he ejaculates, the woman will not get pregnant.
Oh.
We also need to be the right false at it. You want to right false? I heard you all say it at the same time. Remember? Every year. I just talked about him in embarrassing, right? So false, right? That's definitely not. You knew that one, you didn't do it. Okay, number 9. A woman is pregnant. I'm sorry, true or false? A woman is pregnant once an egg has been fertilized by sperm. A woman is pregnant once an egg has been fertilized by sperm. True or false?
I feel like it's true, but I also feel like it'll be expected. I don't know what, like, I think this is perfect. What is the point? Well, I think it's like just a when egg fertilizes part. Yes. Fertilizes the egg. Yeah. Obviously, I feel like it's true. I'm sure it's one. I think. Yeah, there's gonna be a catch.
All right, are we ready? Hold them up. True or false? Okay, false, true, false, false, true with the catch. False. Okay, so it's false. That's step 1, right? That fertilized egg has to implant into the false for a woman to pregnant. That's okay. That was your number. Okay, next one. Again, true or false? We'll give you 50-52. HIV can be transmitted through contact with saliva. HIV can be transmitted through contact with saliva.
Yeah. I think that's false. Like, Richard. I did something. Yeah, we should once.
All right, go ahead, hold them up. What do we got? False, 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 true, false. So it's false. The only way that you could get HIV from saliva is if there was blood in the saliva and you had an open cut in your mouth. Right? That would be the only way, right? So very, very, very unlikely. Right? So false. Okay, next one. What is the average age at which people lose their virginity? And what is the average age at which people lose their virginity?
Yeah. Maybe 16 and a half. 16 and a half. It's like
16 in 2 months.
2 months, 3 days.
4 hours.
Okay, ready? Yeah, so, hold them up. 15, 16, 15 to 16, 14, 16 and a half, 16. So it's between 16 and 17, but it's constantly getting earlier. Really. So roughly 16 to 7. All right, I got 2 more questions for you. This one's more, I think, frightening, right? But what percentage of sexually active people, we'll say between the ages of like 18 to 25, have an STD or an STI? What percentage?
It's like there's a 1 population, I think. So, like, I'll say yes.
Yeah, what percentage of people between the ages of 18 and 25 have an STD or STI? Yeah, but sexually transmitted.
You guys are not doubting that. 40 seems worse.
All right, are you ready? Okay, hold them up. What do we got? 1 in 3, 75, 60, 70, 40, 70. Thankfully, you're all over, which is nice to know, right? 25%. 1 in 4. Yeah.
Heard there was like the HPV and or like that one or whatever it was.
So it gets tricky if we add things like HPV and herpes, especially oral like herpes,
Oh.
right? It's probably quite a bit higher, right? So, but generally, it's still only 1. Thankful, right? It's a lot, but it's less than what you said. Okay, last one, just for fun. How long after intercourse can a sperm stay alive inside a woman's body?
5 days. Not down.
Sperm stay alive inside a woman's body.
Say, like,
No.
But sure, because I don't know.
All right, what do we got? I don't know a lot of you say it. This is amazing. 5, 5, 5, 2, 3, 3 to 5. 5 days. Like this. Next time you said it right away. I heard you. Boom, I got that. 5 days, right? Takes a little bit of time for pregnancy to occur, for the sperm to meet the egg. We'll talk a lot about that. So again, just for fun, just to kind of give you a chance to think about some of these things we're going to look at. If you want to bring up the whiteboard and the marker and stuff, put it back up here. And you can go back to your spot if you move. We'll move forward. Well, thank you. Yeah. All right, and again, just for fun, right? Those are all things we're going to cover throughout the course of the semester, and you all did really well. I want to say like the best I've seen. Like some of you have those answers really quickly, which I think is fantastic. So what we'll look at for the rest of today, for the next like half hour or so, is we're going to look at a bunch of different cultures, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on each one, just kind of a little like overview of what their biggest contributions were to getting us here. So our sexuality today is very much shaped by all of the cultures and places that have come before us, right? And it's very dynamic. Sexuality and what's normal and typical and what's mainstream is constantly changing and evolving. So what we'll look at again is like some regions and some kind of common things for each one. The book does a beautiful job of going more in depth into this. So we'll just look at like a piece or two from each one. So starting in the ancient Mediterranean, looking at Egypt, Greek culture and Roman culture. So now we're like back like 1000 BC. We're back quite a few years here. And I gave you a map just for perspective of where we're talking about. So ancient Egypt, right? Egypt, really interesting, like ancient culture here, right? A couple of things credited to ancient Egypt. The first one, and you can thank them or hate them, is they invented male circumcision, right? So ancient Egyptian culture is credited with inventing circumcision. Very different from circumcision today? When do we tend to perform a circumcision on little boys today? Yeah,
As a baby?
yeah, as a baby, right after they're born. Like it's like a day or two, like right when they're a newborn baby. In ancient Egypt, this was something that was done in puberty. So as a teenage boy, you would go up in front of the entire culture, and it was practiced with a stone blade in front of your peers as a rite of passage, right? So just a little perspective how far we've come since then, right? Very different, but they are the culture credited with developing them, right? And kind of starting to normalize it. It's something that tends to be very common today. And they started that trend thousands of years ago. A couple of other things here, and it was typically practiced by a priest, as a side note as well. They also were one of the first to have prostitutes. Temple prostitutes are documented in a lot of like hieroglyphics and art coming out of the time. So temple prostitutes, circumcision, a couple of things that are very common from this time, a very male-dominated culture with a focus on procreation. Do we know what does it mean if we're focused on procreation? Does anyone know what that would mean? Yeah. Having a kid, exactly, right? So a man and a woman having a child, right? And that's something that you see quite a bit in early cultures. It's not until a little more recently that we see it kind of deviating from that. So ancient Egypt, in the same period of time, the Greek culture and ancient Greece was a very like permissive culture. They were the first to separate sex and love, that they could be different things, that you could have sex with somebody and not love them, right? That's not an odd idea now, but it was at the time. So they talked about different gods for sex and for love, right? So Aphrodite was the god of sex, or the goddess of sex, right? And Eros, the god of love, right? So that they could be slightly different things. We have different gods controlling those different elements. It's also a culture that's often credited with developing the idea of homosexuality. Now, that's not exactly accurate, right? But there was a lot of interaction between men, like sexual interaction between men in this culture, and it wasn't considered abnormal in any way, but it wasn't considered gay or like homosexual either. So within this culture, they practice something that's defined up at the top called pederasty. Pederasty is sexual contact between an adult man and a teenage boy. And so what was very common in this culture is that an adult man would befriend and mentor a teenage boy. And as a thank you for that mentorship, they would perform sexual favors on that adult man. Right now, it was very common within this culture. And it wasn't viewed as homosexual, but oftentimes we credit this culture with kind of normalizing homosexuality. So again, very permissive, right? Separating sex and love for the first time. And then we get this idea of pederasty. Same period of time, the Roman culture. First, to kind of view marriage as not necessarily having anything to do with love. We tend to think now when we marry someone, it's because we love them. We want to spend the rest of our life with them. We love them. We're in love with them. At this time, marriage was something that would improve your economic and social standing. You married someone for status, right? More than you married someone for love, right? I always think of like all the shows out of this time, the arranged marriages where you were trying to marry someone to improve your status rather than because you love them. We also see something really interesting out of this time. We found a bunch of these later, these tiny little like bronze tokens or coins that are called spintria. There were these little bronze or like even wood coins that were thought to be used to pay prostitutes during this time, or as game pieces. We're not sure, right? A little bit of both probably. But we see a lot of sexuality in this culture between husband and wife. And again, kind of changing the idea of marriage, that marriage was more about status than it was about love. Before I go to the next region, any comments, thoughts, questions, anything at all for the moment? Doing good? Yeah. Pederasty? Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that might be part of it as well. So it was oftentimes like teaching them the ways of life, like how to be a grown-up, how to be an adult. But part of that was sometimes teaching them elements of sexuality as well, right? Or how to perform sex, they practice on each other, but it was often like a token of gratitude, right? Like, thank you for all of your things, and performing sexual acts as a form of gratitude. If we move to Asia, right, so we'll look at India and China for the most part here. In ancient India, so we're a little bit more recent, like 400 BC here, so a little bit closer. India, we had a really big focus on something called karma, right? So here we're focusing on Hinduism, the main religion of India, but karma is something that is very much like a part of this culture and a part of this religion. Now, karma is something like kind of like what goes around comes around, or like actions that have consequences, right? And sometimes within this realm, we viewed sex and having children and getting married as good karma, right? So people who did those things would have good karma in the next life or later in that life. So looking at like pursuing relationships and procreation and having children as a form of like good karma. We also see out of this period of time, the most famous of all the sex manuals came out, the Kama Sutra, right? And I have like a modern version of it. There's tons of versions of it. Very colorful. How about the one that's colorful? They're not all that. But a lot of like sex manuals coming out of this time. Positions for sex, all the different types of kisses, how you could be a good partner, right? How you perform sex, how to reach orgasm. Right, some of these things being documented and shared for the first time. It's a really famous book, the Kama Sutra, coming out of ancient India. See a lot of sexuality in the statues and images of the time, but still, again, very focused on procreation, man, woman, sex to have children. It's very, very common still at this period of time. Ancient China, we get this idea of like the Tao. Right. So we look a lot at the interdependence of things and this like energy that represents the basic unity of the universe. So from China, again, we're still in this idea of like between a man and a woman, like for procreation. But the yin and the yang is a really interesting idea coming out of here that we can relate to sexuality. So we talked a lot about how the yin and the yang could really be these opposites of the world that you could bring together through sex. When men and women joined together through sexuality, they would balance that energy, right? And they could achieve like a higher level of just like unity, right? Through sex. So the yin, right, is typically, so we have the yin and the yang. I always mix these two up for some reason. The yin, right, where am I at? The yin is passive and weak and yielding. So it's feminine. Right. So the yin we typically tend to view that way. And then the yang is positive and strong and assertive and masculine. So we blend them together and we can get this unity coming out of sex. Kind of a cool idea of talking about the interdependence that could be brought together through sexuality. The next phase, now we're in 80, right? So we're definitely getting closer. Early Christianity. Christianity and religion in general have played a huge role in sexuality over time, still does, right? Religion shapes a lot of what's normal and abnormal. Early Christianity, so around 50 AD, Christianity began as like a small sect following the teachings of Jesus. Now, we don't know a lot about Jesus' specific ideas on sexuality, more stuff that was recorded in the Bible and so on. But what we do know quite well is that in the early days of Christianity, sex equaled sin. The original sin, right, was sexuality and lust, right? And so the focus of early Christianity was overcoming the desires of the flesh. You didn't want to give in to the desires of the flesh or you'd be sinful and weak, right? And that was a very strong push in early Christianity. We get things like celibacy and chastity. And these terms are still used today, though a little bit differently. Celibacy historically was defined as being unmarried. So if you were celibate, you weren't married, which meant you weren't engaging in sex. Sex before marriage was not a thing at this time, right? Like that was like incredibly sinful, right? And not overly practiced. So if you weren't married, you weren't engaging in any kind of sexual behavior. Chastity means being like sexually pure, either through abstaining completely, so you don't have any kind of sexuality or sexual contact, or maybe adhering to some kind of strict rule, like you only do certain things, but not before marriage, right? So we get a lot of rules around sexuality. Sex equals sin. Again, the original sin, that lusting in the Garden of Eden, right? And so we get a lot of ideas of associating the two together. And this is still a very common mentality in Christianity, that sex is sinful, masturbation, sinful, sex before marriage, sinful, right? Eased a little bit, but it's still something that's definitely there. In the Middle Ages, so again, getting closer, lots of influence of the church, right? If you've taken a history class, which I'm sure you all have at some point, right? The Middle Ages were very like religiously dominated, and we see a lot of influence of the church, right? So again, sex being sinful. And we get this really interesting split between versions of women. We get this like contradictory split. So we have Eve and we have Mary, right? And so women were really what we sometimes say like dichotomized, split into one or the other. And it's never that simple, right? There's a million things in between. But women were either pure and good, like Mary, or they were evil and lustful and sinful, like Eve, right? And so what we got out of this was a lot of the things like the witch hunts. Witch hunts at the time were very much associated with sexuality and sin. People who were considered witches were often women who were engaging in a lot of sexuality. Women who were overly sexual were thought to be consorting with the devil and having orgies with the devil, right? And so we really get this very harsh split between two versions of women. And obviously a lot of people would fall in the middle. Now, I have to share this with you. I don't know why. I should keep these things to myself, but I was searching for a clip to share with you related to this. And apparently there's a video game that features like Eve versus Mary. I found like a 10-second clip from it and it just made me laugh. So I'm going to share it with you just because I can. Or I'll pause this so that it doesn't end up on wherever, of like Eve versus Mary, contradictory versions of women, very much contributing to things like witch hunts and so on. Right? I don't know what game that's from, but I want to play it. That would be fun. If we continue forward, a few more cultures before we stop for the day. The Islamic Middle East, right? So in Islam, we're talking about the followers of Islam being identified as like Muslim. And this is about 1/5 of the world's population. This makes up a lot of people if we look at this area of the world, which is very densely populated. But Islam, right, based on the beliefs of Muhammad, recorded in a book called the Quran or the Quran, right, the holy book of Islam. And so we get a lot of very like patriarchal stuff coming out of this culture, male dominated culture, where women have a very like subservient role. And this is something that has been battled quite a bit over the years. But Islam and Muhammad, like putting out these beliefs, again, that women kind of have like a lesser place, right? And looking at very male dominated culture, again, between a man and a woman for the purposes of procreation and marriage. We also get a term out of here that I think a lot of you have probably heard it, that comes up in movies and shows all the time, a eunuch. Right? I always think of Varys from Game of Thrones, or Johnny Depp says it a bunch of times in Pirates of the Caribbean, right? A eunuch is a male that's been castrated, right? So what that typically means is a man who's had their testicles removed, right? So that they're not producing sperm, so they have less testosterone, which makes them less interested in sex. Very rarely, that might be a man who had his penis removed, right? But that's not nearly as common, right? And so these men who were called eunuchs, they guarded the concubines or the prostitutes of the sultans and rulers, so they castrated them so that they wouldn't be tempted to have sex with them, right? And so this started to be kind of like a normalized practice within this culture at this time. And you sometimes hear that term still today, but it's typically a man who's had their testicles removed, or in rare cases, their penis removed as well, right? Just to reduce testosterone, reduce interest in sexuality. Renaissance, Reformation, and Enlightenment, right? So 3 more periods of time, all kind of going together. It's very like European history right here. It makes me think I'm in European history. But the Renaissance means rebirth. This was a very positive period of time, right around like 1300 AD. A lot of intellectual and artistic thought, a lot of renewed sense of joy in life. And with joy came sexuality, right? So very common before the Renaissance to practice something, I have it defined right here, called asceticism. People had like practices of rejecting eating rich food, engaging in sex, drinking, anything that brought you joy. Right? There were a lot of periods of time where we were very like tight and restricted and narrow on what we could enjoy. The Renaissance moved away from that to more like rebirth and happiness and sexuality and art, a lot of joy in life. And this is something that you see constantly in our history. We have a period of like really like positive forward thinking, followed by a backlash, followed by a forward period, followed by a backlash. We kind of go through these cycles over and over again. So we have the Renaissance, and then we move into the Reformation that came afterward. We get Martin Luther and Protestantism being very common and a little more liberal than some of the times before. Like Protestantism had some kind of liberal notions to it. For the first time, we get this idea that men and women could have sex for reasons other than just to have children. So a quote that came out of this time, you don't have to write this down, but just to share, sex was permissible within a marriage. So you still have to be married, but within a marriage, as long as it comes from a desire to have children, to avoid adultery, so cheating, or to lighten and ease the cares and sadness of household affairs. So for the first time, we get this thought that you can have sex for reasons other than having children, that it could be like just to lighten the load of life, right? Or for enjoyment, as long as it was between a man and a woman who were married. And it's still something that was very common at the time. And then the Enlightenment coming after, right? Sexual pleasures being like natural and desirable, kind of again, a positive period of time where we see that it was okay to have sex, right? We kind of viewing it in a different light. And so you can see again, as we're moving through like forward, backward, just constantly do that. So we go from these very forward times to a very restrictive time, right? And I think what I'll do is I'm going to stop here just so I can take attendance and kind of check in with some of you if with index cards and all that kind of stuff. But what we'll do is we'll pick up here next time. We'll talk about the biggest threat to female sexuality of the 1900s, the bicycle. Something you might not think of. We'll watch a really cool, like I said, documentary about sexuality in the early 1900s and throughout the 1900s. Talks about the bike and the car and all of these things, which we didn't know a whole lot about at the time. So we'll stop here. What I want to do before we're done today, I'll take attendance again this week and next week just to make sure who's here. And then I'll hang out for a few minutes. A few of you, I have candy for you. I have enough. If all of you want a piece of candy, you can get some, but a couple of you definitely want candy. And then if you have any questions, I'll be up here as well. So if you want to pack up, I'll give you a second. I'll turn this off. We'll take attendance and call it a day.